Good evening and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. Hope everyone is doing well on this Wednesday evening. We're back with another massive show to bring you guys this evening. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's get straight on into it. On the show this evening, we're going to be talking about a story that came out earlier on today from Melissa Reddy of Sky Sports, saying that Manchester United are now considering terminating Jadon Sancho's contract. We'll, of course, be going into that. I'll be giving my opinion. I'll be inviting you to have your opinion as well, of course, as always. We'll also be talking about the reports coming out that apparently Manchester United are looking at a new midfield star ahead of the January transfer window. We'll talk a little bit more about Rafael Varane and Casemiro as well. We've got a bit of an update on them. And we'll also talk a little bit about a story around Sir Jim's plan for when he comes into Manchester United on how he's going to scale back on costs. So lots of stuff to get into on this evening's show. As always, do get involved in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on this evening's show. I love to see what you guys have to say about Manchester United. So get in the comment section. I always read every single comment. So get in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on everything we talk about on this evening's show. Right, let's start off with the story about Jadon Sancho then, because I think that's probably the biggest news piece of the day. So it came out from Melissa Reddy. And first of all, Melissa came out saying that Manchester United will implement a more ruthless approach to their process over player contracts in a bid to prioritise the right culture and recruitment strategy over business interests. It says this will form part of the directive to strengthen football operations when Ineos take over 25% of the club. And you know what? I think this is a great thing. I really, really do. I cannot endorse this enough. We've given out contracts to people who don't deserve it. We gave Phil Jones a contract. Remember that, right? I think Phil Jones played like one game in a season or a couple of games, and we gave him like a 4-year contract. And he didn't, I think he played once in that 4 years. Martial should have been sold 5-6 years ago. We gave him, I think, a 5-year contract. The list goes on and on and on and on of all of these players. And the Glazers' business plan over the last 18 years has been, if they think a player's contract's going to run out, instead of at that point looking to sell them, they'll give them a new contract because they want to retain what they think is value. But really, the only thing that the value is retaining is on their balance books because, you know, for example, Harry Maguire is an £80 million player. He's probably a £20 or £30 million player in the grand scheme of things. But on Manchester United books, Harry Maguire is worth £80 million. Do you see where I'm going with this? And it's the same with people like Martial. It's the same with, obviously, other players that we've given these ridiculous contracts to. It's ridiculous. So in relation to Jadon Sancho, obviously this was the first bit of the story that came out earlier on today, saying that Manchester United will be more ruthless going forward. And I think that's good. I respect that. If a player's not performing and they've got 1 year left of their contract, sell them. It's as simple as that. And we won't find ourselves in this problem again going forward if we do this now. Because what will happen is we'll get to that point, and instead of rewarding an average player with ridiculous wages and a new contract, we'll say, okay, you're not good enough, goodbye. And that will be it. Opposed to giving them a new contract, then probably asking for double what they were on before, and then us being stuck with them for 5 or 6 years and nobody wants to buy them. And the same cycle just repeats over and over and over again. And then in the end, they all leave as a free agent anyway because no one wants to buy them. So what was a tactic to retain value actually just means we end up paying people like Martial 250 grand a week for 5 years for him to play, maybe 5 games a year on average and score maybe 2 or 3 goals a year on average. We pay him 250 grand a week. I think I looked earlier, he's paid about 18 million a year. So since he signed his new contract, we'll have given him nearly 100 million in wages over a 5-year period. Just let that sink in for a minute. 100 million pounds in wages for somebody who's been injured, somebody who was out on loan for 2 or 3 of those seasons. Like, it's ridiculous. It really, really is. And there's never really been any interest in him. You know, it's not like you've got, I don't know, a Sevilla or a Valencia or someone like that saying, oh, we'll give you 30, 40 million. These clubs are like, we'll take him on loan. You can pay his salary. Like, it's ridiculous. It really, really is. So I think this is a positive bit of news that's come out today from Melissa Reddy, who I do like. Good journalist for Sky Sports. And then she goes on to say this. She says, if an exit route for Jadon Sancho does not materialise, Manchester United will consider severing ties instead of trying to recoup some of their 73 million outlay. So what that means there is they'll release him from his contract. Now, I've done a bit of digging because I think, you know, when you get stories like this come out, Obviously, Melissa Reddy, as I said, I think she's quite a reliable journalist. I'm not by any means saying that she'd put out stuff that's fake. So I think there is some truth in this. And I think that maybe it's Manchester United trying to play a bit of a game of poker here, you know? They're briefing the press that if they can't find a suitable place for Jadon Sancho, they'd rather just release him than continue to pay him to just be a kind of a bad presence around the team or a talking point around the team, which I understand, you know? There's no, like, if you look at it like this way, right, you have two options. If nobody wants to take Jadon Sancho for whatever reason, because of his wages, because of maybe attitude problems, disciplinary problems, and we can't actually get rid of him, you either continue him being a Manchester United player, being paid full wages, taking up the club's resources, because obviously he doesn't train with the first team. So there will have to be 2 or 3 coaches that train with him, do his nutritional plans. You know, it will be costing Manchester United additional money on top of his wages to have him around the club, even though he's not taking part. So you either continue to have him around the club. Eric Ten Hag gets asked about it every other press conference. We talk about it on shows like this every other day, and it's just tedious. And you're still paying him all of his money. Or you say, you know what, Jadon? Goodbye. You pay him off and he goes. Like, either way, you're losing money. We're currently paying for him to sit at home and play FIFA. Like, what difference does it really make? Now, will Manchester United do it? I'm not sure, because at the end of the day, right, I don't think that they'd have to pay him all of it up front, okay? It would be the same as it is always. They'd have to pay him off for the reminder. They'd have to pay him off for the reminder of the contract. So, say he has 20 months left on his deal, they'll pay him 250 grand a week for the next 20 months. That would work, you know? Let's have a look. How long is Jadon Sancho contract? Okay, so... Yeah, so there's multiple different journalists reporting this story this afternoon that apparently they are looking at terminating his contract. From what I can see here, he's got 2 years left on his contract. His contract's up in 2025 in the summer. I mean, how much money is that going to cost us? Let's try and work it out quickly whilst we're live. I think it's quite an important piece of information. Sorry, his contract expires in June 2026. So let's have a look. How long until June 2026? So what's he on per week? 250 grand a week. I'm going to work this out for you now really, really quickly. Okay, I mean, it's a hell of a lot of money. Jadon Sancho, the rest of Jadon Sancho's contract is worth around £32 million. That's mad, isn't it? We owe Jadon Sancho £32 million over the next 2 years. That's crazy. Like, I can't even begin to, put that into perspective. You've got somebody here who's refusing to apologise to the manager. He's disgraced the club, in my opinion. And we're going to pay him £32 million to effectively leave. Like, it's crazy. It's a very mad situation. And all I'll say is that Manchester United need to make sure that situations like this never happen again. They need to, be more strict on the players they bring in. They need to look at them better. They need to, speak to previous clubs and say, what was the relationship like there? I mean, with Jadon Sancho as an example, he was like this at Dortmund and he was like this at Man City. So how are they only just realising this now? Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Sick Boy says, if Sancho's Twitter post can be deemed a breach of contract, they won't need to pay him. The meetings talked about today are probably with the legal team. Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. And, at the moment we're saying, 32 million. What might be going on right now is that they might be able to mutually agree to terminate the contract. So I'm going to give you an analogy in a different way so you can kind of understand it. So say that I've had an experience with this recently myself. Well, not recently, but before myself. So say you're renting a shop or a commercial premises, right? And you decide that you want to close the shop. A lot of the time you can go to your landlord and say, yes, I've got 3 years left of my contract, but if I give you 1.5 years worth of rent now upfront, can we terminate the deal? And a lot of the time you can do that in those situations. So it's a very, very similar situation here where I think that Manchester United might approach Jadon Sancho with some sort of offer. They might say, yes, we are aware you've got 2.5 years left of your contract. We'll pay you half of that to leave now. And, so it might be 10, 15 million pounds. They pay him and he goes. So then Manchester United in their heads are like, okay, we're saving 10, 15 million pounds. Jadon Sancho's like, I've just got 10, 15 million pounds in the bank for effectively doing nothing. And then he could go to another club, get a big signing on fee and probably, still earn 100, 150 grand a week. So I think that that's the way that this is going to go, because keeping him on loan doesn't solve anything. He's not going to ever be worth the amount of money that we paid for him. Keeping him on loan is not going to allow another club to come in and say, we'll give you 250 grand a week. We've put ourselves in this situation. It's literally impossible that somebody else is going to pay him the amount of money we do. The only exception is Saudi Arabia. And from what I'm seeing, Jadon doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia. He's only 22, 23. He still thinks he's, good enough to play in Europe, which he probably is, to be fair, in all fairness. It just hasn't worked at Manchester United. Sometimes it doesn't work with players. We've got to remember that. It's easy for us to criticise people. His attitude absolutely stinks. I think the way that he's treated the manager, the fans, and his teammates is an absolute disgrace, but he definitely is a talented player, or at least was a talented player. But let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are on this whole thing. And let's move on to the next part of the show. Right. Daniel says, everybody blames Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold, but it was what the Glazers wanted. Do you agree? Yeah, I mean, there's lots of people to blame at Manchester United. You can look at everything from the Glazers to Ed Woodward to John Murtagh to Richard Arnold to the scouts to the recruitment team. Like, there's so many people to blame. There is. So it's not one person's fault. It's not just the Glazers' fault. The blame is pointed at the Glazers predominantly because they are the owners of the club. They're the ones who should be able to manage the club, and they've not done that. So that's why I think they're the kind of in the firing line. Irvin says, if we have 35 million, let's buy some good players and sell Sancho later. I'm not sure if that would be possible, mate, but obviously, in a dream scenario, that would be good. Right, let's talk a little bit about this midfielder that apparently Manchester United are eyeing up in the January window. It's a player we talked about in the summer, and his name is Amadou Onana. He did unfortunately miss a penalty last night for Everton, which saw them get knocked out of the League Cup. Is this story kind of a bit of a backlash off the back of that? Potentially. It seems a little bit of a coincidence that, the morning after he effectively gets Everton knocked out of the out of the League Cup, there's a story coming out saying that he's going to leave. I'm not too sure about this one. Obviously, we've been linked to him for a couple of years. We nearly signed him before he joined Everton. I think he's a good player. I don't know if he's world class. I don't think he's better than Kobbie Mainoo. Genuinely, from what I've seen of Kobbie Mainoo, I think he's good. I think I've got a couple of friends who are Everton fans, and they say that James Garner's been better than Amadou Onana. So that kind of sums it up for me, The fact that we let James Garner go for, I believe, next to nothing. Was it 5 million, 10 million? Let me have a little look. And then we potentially would spend 40, 50 million on someone like Amadou Onana. Doesn't really add up to me. Yeah, I mean, we sold James Garner for 10 million euros. Like, that's so cheap. And Everton are apparently asking for around 50 to 60 million euros for Amadou Onana. I wouldn't go anywhere near this deal. I think it's a stupid deal. It's the kind of deal the Glazers would do in the previous regime. These are not the kind of deals that I expect a Manchester United to do when you've got Dan Ashworth, Paul Mitchell, Jean-Claude Blanc, Sir Dave Brailsford and Ineos managing the sporting side. I really, really wouldn't. I think he's a good player. I think he's worth 20 to 30 million. I think he would be a squad player at this point. I don't think he's better than Casemiro. Arguably, I don't think he's that much better than Amrabat. Probably. Obviously, he's a lot younger. He's got a higher ceiling. But yeah, for me, it's a big no. Obviously, Everton paid 35 million for him last season. So they're going to want, a big return on investment. We know that Everton are in real difficult financial struggles at the moment after their point deduction and potential fines that are coming in. But yeah, for me, it's a no. Definitely don't want Amadou Onana. Yeah. Let me know in the comment section, guys. What do you think of Amadou Onana? Would you like to see him at Manchester United? Let me know your thoughts. For me, it's a no. Definitely not. Irvin says, Kieran, off topic, but why is advertising disturbing your live stream? Mate, I'll be honest with you. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I keep seeing a message pop up on my screen saying that an advert's about to pop up or something. I don't know. I've seen it on other people's streams as well. I think it's just something that YouTube do now. I don't know whether when you reach a certain amount of subscribers, I'm not sure, but other channels that I watch, other, non-football related streamers, everything has adverts on it now when it's live. Maybe it's probably a new thing that they've brought in, to be honest, to try and make more money. So yeah, I'm not really sure about that, to be honest. But Richie says, my mate supports Everton, a season ticket holder, said you're welcome to Onana. Garner is 10 times the player, and if Manchester United paid off Sancho, no way will there be signings. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly there. From what I've heard as well from another Everton fan who's my friend, he said that James Garner's better, and he said that Onana's not that good. So yeah, I don't watch Everton week in, week out. What I've seen of Onana, I think he's all right. I don't think he's that great, to be honest, personally. Yeah, Florian says Amadou Hadera would be better. Yeah, I like the look of him. But yeah, let me know what you think about Amadou Onana. For me, it's a no. If it was like 20 million, maybe, you'd take a punt at it, but 50, 60 million, I think that's stupid business for me personally. So yeah, definitely not. Everybody who's just joined in the last couple of minutes, please smash a like on the video and please subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get as many people into the stream as possible. Right. There's some more breaking news coming out as well in the last couple of minutes, which I wanted to touch on. And that is surrounding Casemiro and Raphael Varane. This is coming out from Rob Dawson, ESPN, another good journalist. And he is reporting that Erik ten Hag wants to keep Raphael Varane and Casemiro at Manchester United past the January transfer window. I mean, I don't blame him, to be honest. I don't. I mean, when you look at that midfield at the moment, Kobe Mainoo is a breath of fresh air. Amrabat, massive question marks for me. McTominay should never start in that CDM position ever again, in my opinion. I think further up the pitch, he's okay, but in that defensive position, I think he's completely hopeless, personally. Raphael Varane, Casemiro are probably two of the only players in that squad that you could potentially class as world class. Yes, they're old. Yes, they're injury prone. Yes, they're on too much money. Yes, we should probably cash in. But if you're Erik ten Hag and it's a results business, why would you sanction the sale of probably two of your best players to then potentially be left with either nothing or a worse option? Think about last season, right? Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo had to go. After he did the Piers Morgan interview, he sealed his own exit. But imagine this, right? Imagine this. This is literally a nightmare scenario. You get rid of Cristiano Ronaldo, the greatest player in the world, ever, arguably, the greatest goal scorer of all time. You get rid of him, the correct decision. You're saving, I think, £500,000 a week on wages. Your replacement? Wout Weghorst. Now, does Erik ten Hag make the same mistake again? Get rid of arguably two of his best players, who in my opinion should be in that starting lineup every single week? At the moment, I would say no. If we were 2 or 3 years into the Ineos project and we'd proven that we can, like Liverpool did in the summer, they sold Fabinho to, I think, Al Ettifaq for like £40 million. That was good business. But you know that Liverpool will then go and invest that money somewhere else. They went and got McAllister for, what was it, like less than that, I think. They sold a 40-year-old player who was past his best, let's be honest, and they brought in McAllister. Yes, maybe McAllister hasn't 100% hit the ground running, but he's 24 years of age and they bought him for 42 million euros. That makes sense. But if I'm Erik ten Hag, I don't trust the Glazers at the moment to be able to do a good deal. I don't. They'll let those two go and we'll end up with like Johnny Evans on a new contract and I don't even want to imagine who will come through. It'll be some random person who we've never heard of or a loan signing, and that will be it. And slowly the team will start getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it does just concern me. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Irvin says, Kieran, which area would you bring players in for the January transfer window, knowing you will get Martinez and Casemiro back? I mean, we definitely need a centre-back. Obviously, we'll talk about that in a minute. The centre-back situation's not looking good either, to be honest. I think centre-back, I think we need a winger. And I would say we need a striker. 3 players. Striker, I would take Guirassy or Werner. Like, that's the options. Either of them, that's better than nothing. And then on the right wing, I don't know, to be honest. I don't really know who we're going to get for a loan or scraping the barrel. Probably, what's he called? Marlon from Dortmund. It'll be someone like that. It doesn't really excite me, I'll be honest, but that's the position we're in at the moment. Centre-back wise, this is where it gets more complicated and it gets a little bit upsetting, to be honest. Now, the headline this morning from Fabrizio is that Todibo is now officially in talks to move to Tottenham. We'll miss out on it. We will. We'll miss out on Todibo, I think. I think he'll end up at Tottenham. Daniel Levy's got £100 million in his pocket from the Kane transfer. Manchester United are having to scrape around the back of the sofa to get 8 million to do a loan deal for Amrabat. We won't be able to cough up the 30-40 million that Nice want and deserve for that quality of player. So it does concern me a bit. But yeah. Yeah, Richie's talking about Fabrizio. Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. But if I'm going to be completely honest with you now, I think Todibo will go to Tottenham. I don't, obviously, I'm not certain of anything. This is all just opinion, but I think I can see Todibo in a Tottenham shirt. I think he'll go there. It is what it is, isn't it? We've missed out on another signing. I know it hasn't happened yet, but yeah. So the headline is this. Fabrizio has said, I understand that Tottenham have now opened direct talks to sign Jean-Claire Todibo in January. He's high on Tottenham's list. Not an easy deal to do, but talks are now starting. Spurs have also spoke to the players' camp in the recent days. So not only are Tottenham actually directly talking with Nice, they've already spoken to the player and, sold him the project and all the rest of it. Whereas Manchester United are like, if we sell Varane, if we let Johnny Evans go, if Jadon Sancho goes, if maybe we get some money for Mason Greenwood, we might then be able to have half the money to buy Todibo and we'll give you the other half in the summer. Do you know what I mean? There's all these ifs, buts, maybes, if this happens, that happens. Whereas Daniel Levy can just walk into there and say, here's 30 million, take it. They'll say no, and he'll say, okay, cool, 40. And the deal will be done. So I would say that he'll go to Tottenham. The other thing we have to consider as well is that apparently Real Madrid are also now looking for a centre-back. Obviously, apparently David Alaba got injured yesterday. So Real Madrid are also on the hunt for a centre-back. So not only are Tottenham looking at Todibo, we know that Real Madrid are as well. So yeah, it's not ideal, is it? But there's not really too much we can do about it. I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be back tomorrow morning as normal. Please do smash a like on the video before you go. Please do subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts on Jadon Sancho. Let me know your thoughts on Todibo, Amadou Onana and all the rest of it. Have a lovely evening, everybody, and I'll speak to you all tomorrow.